want to try to explain you guys to our audience, as it were. So,
Good luck.
well, the first question I guess I have is like, have you had trouble through the years, like explaining your genre to folks?
Yes, we have. We're a five-piece rock band with a lot of influences. That's like the easiest way I can kind of gateway into it. But the guys, everybody has different musical influences, and so really it's kind of a melting pot of ideas and gives me great opportunity to write the lyrics and get the themes from, just because things can be stylistically so varied. But at the end of the day, we're a rock band with some folk, indie folk, Americana kind of leanings, and there's a little bit of some Celtic and bluegrass influence in some of the stuff, but it's also kind of pop and then some kind of classic rock structure. And yeah, just we're just kind of a song story oriented band, with guitars and drums and bass and mandolin and fiddle and banjo and penny whistle and whatever else works for the song.
What are a couple of your biggest influences, I guess?
I mean, personally, I didn't grow up with a lot of music as a kid. It was just kind of stuff I started falling into in college mostly. I mean, I was just kind of like your average 70s kid, and listening to just bubblegum music, whether it was like the Beach Boys or the Monkees, or I don't even know. I mean, old Police, the old Police and REM and stuff like that. But and then just was just kind of a basic radio kid, growing up. I wasn't really so much influenced by tons of music as I was by movies and things like that. The other guys have a lot deeper influences growing up than I do, from AC/DC to Neil Young to Fish to Grateful Dead to, Thelonious Monk to I don't know what.
Well, first of all, the Monkees are my favorite band, so I really like that you said that.
I mean, why wouldn't they be?
Exactly. You mentioned being influenced by movies. That makes sense because I feel like a lot of I know you probably don't write all the lyrics, but a lot of the lyrics for Carbon Leaf are very cinematic.
Thank you. Yeah, I do the lyrics. That's my job. Come up with the theme, the lyrics, and then try to come up with the melody. And so yeah, I do think kind of in some cinematic terms, maybe more so than I should sometimes. But I don't know. It's just kind of it's fun. The music that I get from the guys is fun, and I can kind of imagine a lot of. I like to create a setting from what the music's making me feel like, and I think that's a really good in for me.
Well, interestingly enough, Mike Nesmith of the Monkees, when he toured a few years back, he did this tour called Movies of the Mind, and it was his songs, and he would set like a cinematic vignette for it and then play the song. I hear a lot of that same kind of the setting. You're in the setting, especially with songs like What About Everything and One Prairie Outpost.
I think, and it's funny you mentioned Mike Nesmith, because a lot of those Monkey records. I mean, obviously they didn't write a lot of them, but Mike Nesmith did do a fair amount of some of the writing. And I think whenever you can include some real details without worrying about, well, is that going to be relatable to everybody? I think that's more interesting and really kind of paints your world a little bit more if you can be very specific without being obnoxious about it. To really gain a sense of time and place is interesting to me. And I want to write songs that we're interested in night after night, you know what I mean? And so songs like What About Everything, where there is kind of a lot of details about not just your surrounding externally and also internally what's going on inside, but also kind of like how your atmosphere is kind of affecting that too. Is fun.
The song Let Your Troubles Roll By. I have a friend I got into Carbon Leaf, and that song has resonated with both of us like really deeply at different times in our lives. Was that something that meant a lot to you when you were writing it? Or was it just trying to go for like an uplifting feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that song. The chorus is kind of what came first. When all of your tears dry, let your troubles roll by. Kind of the song's very repetitive. It's like two or three chords. The whole thing, and then and when I had the demo music, and that line kind of became the foundation. I wanted to use the verses as a way of kind of making a composite, not a composite character, but almost as if you were, well, at the end it says so many cities and windows and lives, and through each one there's a life that strives to survive.
That's
So
my
I
favorite
pictured,
line.
thank you. I pictured the rest of the verses as a narrative, as if you're like walking by these windows or floating past these windows and catching just a brief moment of what's going on in a person's life, and then you kind of move and there you see another one, kind of like sometimes when you walk down the street and you can hear somebody say something when they're having a conversation with somebody else, and you can like you just get this like super concentrated essence of what's going on in their life, and then they pass you, you know. So the idea was to have, you know, everybody's got so much going on in their life, and so in that respect we're all kind of the same. So that was appealing to me. And then a lot of the way that the verses were written was, I used to have a jar where I'd put scraps of ideas on pieces of paper and I'd stick them in this jar. So there was a lot of kind of disparate kind of ideas, and I took some of that as the basis for this song, and used that idea thematically, like the fact that we're all a patchwork of people having our own issues, and some of those lines kind of came and I put them together. So the disjointedness, the fact that it's not a through narrative for one person, kind of worked in that song's favor.
So I have a question I've been dying to ask. Obviously, you guys released The War Was in Color in 2006. And then in 2008, Jamie Johnson, country singer, releases his award-winning country song In Color. I don't know how much you can say here, but have you ever considered the similarities?
So the funny thing is, and I forget the names, people can look them up, but we were taken aback by that too. And before that song was released by us, we actually entered a songwriting contest, the International Songwriters Contest, and we entered The War Was in Color, and it won this contest. They had a bunch of different categories, but the category we won was the best lyrics. And then that Jamie Johnson song came out, which had some had some similarities. And I actually did some poking around, and I don't have any way of knowing for sure, but one of the judges on the songwriting contest was also one of the co-writers of the Jamie Johnson song. And so I have a sneaking suspicion maybe that was where they maybe have gotten some ideas, but who am I to say or no? I just know that we released ours 2 years before that song came out, and one of the co-writers was a judge on the songwriting contest that we won. So welcome to Nashville, right? So
which of your songs do you think is like the most anthemic song that you do?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, certainly Let Your Troubles Roll By, certainly The War Was in Color kind of has a grandiosity. But on the opposite side, One Prairie Outpost is kind of like a real quiet song of ours that maybe could lend to that definition. What About Everything is another good one like that. Life Less Ordinary is kind of like an epic kind of love song like that.
Life Less Ordinary is actually the first one of your songs I heard. I got a new laptop and it came preloaded with like 4 songs from Indian Summer on it.
You gotta tell, right?
I did indeed.
Every now and then we'll get someone that says that was their introductory to Carbon Leaf, is that we had these, because this was back in the day when like that was like a feature of getting a computer. It would be preloaded with stuff. And yeah, I remember at that point there was some reason we were on this hard drive, and so every now will be like, I heard you on my new HP or my Dell or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't know how widespread that campaign was.
I mean, pretty widespread. I mean, I still get every now and again someone will be like, that's how I heard you guys.
So you guys strike me as a band, like obviously you write good songs, have good albums, but you strike me as a band that just really enjoys playing live. Do you ever think of yourselves as more of like a live band or more of an albums band?
I love making records is a lot of work. I love the world building and the fact that they're two different things. Live, it's live theater, it's 5 of you, and it's your ability to play together. It's your sound man and your light designer who are creating a thing, and you're connecting live with an audience, and that's like so unique and special, right? But making an album is great because it's like you've just finished these songs, they're super new and fresh. You don't actually know kind of how things are going to turn out, or you go in with one set of ideas and then you find these happy accidents and you come out with something else. So that's super exciting. That's still part of like the creative process when you're writing, when you're recording, that I love. And the fact that you can, you can just add a bunch of stuff on, or, just do crazy things with it. So I enjoy both. But they're for different reasons.
So during your live sets, you tend to do a few songs like in the round with just the single microphone. Here at the radio station, WWCD Radio, we have a 32 plus year tradition of having artists do mostly acoustic sets upstairs in our big room. If you were doing a 3-song set for our alternative audience, what songs would you play?
Definitely One Prairie Outpost. I'd play, I'd do an acoustic version of War Was in Color.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe something like, What About Everything, or On Any Given Day. Some things that are digestible. One Prairie is a nice, simple tune. What About Everything, it has a nice kind of, relatable, chorus to it. War Was in Color has a little bit more gravitas, so it's kind of nice to weight it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think those would be good ones.
So obviously you spent your first years as a band on your own label, Constant Ivy, and then you signed with a major label. And then after a few years, that went back to your own label again. Yep. I talked to John McRae of Cake, and he was talking about advice he would give to people starting out now about signing to labels. Just curious what your advice to people would be.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I would hope that it would work in their favor. If you have the label and people there that really believe in you, that's worth its weight in gold. The problem is those long-term relationships, the label, they change hands so often, at least they used to. And so you could often have people in your corner when you sign, and then, soon thereafter they're gone, and you're kind of left trying to get people's attention. We had some good success with the label we were on for the first album, but then we'd released 2 subsequent albums to lesser success. So it started just becoming a bit more like a high interest loan to be in that relationship. And you do give up some rights in exchange for the hope that there's some promotional push. So the label can provide a promotional push, but I'm not so sure, that juice is worth the squeeze when it comes to, are you willing to give up, the rights to your masters? Now, we didn't give up our song rights. We retained all the rights to our songs, but the master licenses you give up, which is basically the physical recording of the song, is kind of owned by the label. So you still own the songs, but you don't own the recording that it's going out into the world. So there's some tough things like that to consider. And it's very tricky. You gotta hope that you've got a great team home office that can help steer the label and make sure you're not, going down, a spending path that you can't really get out of. I know some bands that have been on labels and they've gotten great marketing out of it, but yet they gave up all the rights. So what happens in the long game, with that?
So you're coming to Columbus, Ohio on April 16th to the A&R Music Bar. We're excited that you're coming back. And by we, I mean, like, I know the fan base you have is incredible.
Well, use more, so grab your friends and come on out.
Absolutely. And hopefully some people will hear this interview and want to come check out what's up with Carbon Lead.
Yeah. Jump on Spotify and start working your way down from the most recent stuff on that.
All right. Thank you so much, Barry. I really appreciate you having this time to talk with me today. And
you bet.
yeah, we'll see you April 16th at the A&R.